infinite parallel universes. So what the kid winds up with is this theory of like one atom weighing too much.
What if a teenage prodigy told you CERN's new quantum AI had ripped open a portal to another dimension? Sounds like late-night sci-fi. But that's exactly what Max Lohan, once dubbed the world's smartest kid, claimed.
This kid's talking about things that are super smart, and it's kind of like to show you he's super smart.
The internet lit up. Joe Rogan couldn't resist reacting, and suddenly half the world was asking, wait, did science fiction just crash into real science? Buckle up. We're diving headfirst into portals, particles, and possibilities. Max's bold claim. Max Lohan didn't just make a quirky statement, he dropped a cosmic bomb. According to him, CERN, the European Particle Physics Lab, famous for its Large Hadron Collider, LHC, had done something far stranger than discover the Higgs boson. With the help of a powerful quantum AI, CERN had allegedly cracked open a portal. Yes, an actual gateway into another dimension. Not a metaphor, not a figure of speech. A portal. Let's pause here. When people hear CERN and portal in the same sentence, the imagination takes off. Cue images of glowing wormholes, scientists in lab coats running from swirling vortexes, and maybe a demogorgon or two. It's no wonder this claim turned heads. The idea that the world's most advanced scientific machine, paired with cutting-edge artificial intelligence, could literally punch a hole in reality is the kind of thing that keeps both conspiracy forums and late-night podcasts buzzing. But what would a quantum AI even mean at CERN? In the simplest terms, imagine combining the mind-bending processing power of a quantum computer, which doesn't just crunch numbers, but explores countless possibilities at once, with the pattern-finding instincts of modern artificial intelligence. Together, they'd form a system capable of modeling physics experiments at scales and speeds beyond human comprehension. To Max, that marriage of brute force quantum calculation and AI-driven intuition wasn't just a tool for studying particles, it was a cosmic key. And according to his claim, CERN turned that key. Of course, this is where the lines blur between scientific fact and speculative fiction. CERN really does collide protons at nearly the speed of light, generating energies that mimic the conditions of the early universe. That much is true. Physicists at CERN also use AI to sift through mountains of collision data, spotting patterns that would take humans decades to decode. That's true, too. But has any of this opened a literal gateway to a parallel reality? There's no evidence. Yet, the lack of evidence has never stopped wild ideas from thriving, especially when the words CERN and portal are involved. Max's claim worked like a spark in a room full of kindling. The public's love for mysterious science, quantum weirdness, and doomsday theories ignited instantly. It tapped into something deeper than physics. It tapped into our hunger for wonder, for stories that make us question what's really happening behind the curtain of reality. And just when people started asking, who would even say such a thing? The internet reminded everyone, oh right, it's that kid. By now you're probably wondering, hold on, who exactly is this Max Loughan kid? And why are people taking his words seriously? Fair question. Who is Max Lohan again? Max Loughan first burst into public view back in 2016, when he was just 13 years old, sporting a mop of hair, oversized glasses, and the kind of confidence only a true dreamer can pull off. He stood in front of cameras and unveiled what he claimed was a revolutionary invention, a device that could harvest free energy from the atmosphere. The machine was cobbled together from household items, coffee cans, wires, a spoon, and a few electronic parts. To anyone else, it looked like a science fair project gone rogue. But to Max, it was proof that limitless clean energy was within reach. The media went wild. Articles hailed him as the world's smartest kid. YouTube interviews racked up millions of views. Overnight, Max became a wunderkind folk hero, a kind of modern-day Nikola Tesla trapped in the body of a middle schooler. He spoke about saving the world with boundless enthusiasm, his voice cracking slightly with youth, even as his words carried the weight of a visionary. What made Max stand out wasn't just the device, it was the way he carried himself. He spoke with a clarity and passion that felt far older than his years, tossing around terms like electromagnetic fields and resonance, as if he were giving a TED Talk instead of doing homework. He wasn't shy about declaring that he wanted to change the future of energy, technology, and humanity itself. Of course, the scientific community had its doubts. Many experts pointed out that his invention wasn't quite the free energy breakthrough it was hyped to be. It was more like a basic radio wave energy harvester, the kind engineers had tinkered with for decades. But here's the thing, nobody seemed to care. Because Max wasn't just about one device, he represented something bigger. He was the embodiment of that irresistible narrative, the young genius who might see something the rest of us missed. And so, every time Max spoke, people leaned in. Was everything he said airtight science? Not always, but he delivered his ideas with enough confidence and charisma that audiences wanted to believe. He had the aura of someone who could, in some future chapter of his life, stumble across a discovery that rewrites the rules. That's why his later comments about CERN and quantum AI opening a portal struck such a chord. It wasn't a random internet troll tossing conspiracy bait into the void. It was Max Loughan, the same kid who once promised free energy, the same kid media outlets had crowned a genius. His words carried the echo of potential, and that made them harder to dismiss outright. Of course, bold claims tend to attract bold reactions. And in today's media landscape, one person who always seems to have a microphone ready for exactly this kind of brain-bending speculation, Joe Rogan. If there's one cultural commentator who thrives on the sweet spot between science and speculation and, wait, what did you just say? It's Joe Rogan. The moment Max's CERN portal claim bubbled into public chatter, Rogan's name naturally got tied in. After all, his podcast is practically a magnet for fringe ideas and cosmic what-ifs. True to form, Rogan didn't dismiss it outright. Instead, he leaned into curiosity. Could CERN's experiments really bend the fabric of reality? Could a kid genius actually be onto something? For Rogan, it was less about debunking and more about playing with the idea, rolling it around like a mental puzzle toy. Smashing particles, not portals. Okay, let's set the record straight. CERN isn't secretly summoning demons, building stargates, or cracking open rips in space-time, at least not on purpose. What it is doing is plenty exciting all on its own, and, ironically, sometimes so wild that it sounds like science fiction, even when it's real. At the heart of CERN's mission lies the Large Hadron Collider, the world's biggest and most powerful particle accelerator. Imagine a 17-mile underground racetrack straddling the French-Swiss border, where protons, tiny subatomic particles that live inside every atom, are hurled at one another at nearly the speed of light. When they collide, the energy released is enormous, and out of that violent smash-up, new particles emerge, some so rare or short-lived that they've never been seen before. That's how, in 2012, physicists confirmed the existence of the Higgs boson, the so-called God particle, a discovery that won a Nobel Prize and finally explained why particles even have mass. For physicists, this was like finding the missing corner piece of a cosmic jigsaw puzzle. For the public, it was proof that CERN could actually discover things straight out of science headlines. Now here's where things get juicy. Smashing particles together at those energies doesn't just give us new building blocks of matter, it recreates, on a tiny scale, the conditions of the early universe. We're talking billionths of a second after the Big Bang. That's not just cool science. The myths that refuse to die. Of course, with great power comes great conspiracy theories. Ever since the LHC was switched on in 2008, skeptics and sci-fi lovers alike have speculated, what if smashing particles creates a tiny black hole that swallows the Earth? What if they accidentally discover a hidden dimension? What if colliding protons doesn't just reveal physics, but opens a door to something else? Physicists have addressed these fears repeatedly. Mini black holes, if created, would evaporate instantly and pose zero threat. Hidden dimensions? The math is tantalizing, but no evidence has turned up yet. As for portals, well, unless you're willing to stretch definitions, there's nothing resembling a glowing wormhole swirling in the Geneva countryside. But here's the irony. The real science is arguably stranger than the myths. Quantum mechanics, antimatter, dark energy. These aren't Hollywood inventions. They're real mysteries scientists wrestle with daily, and they're far weirder than a demogorgon crawling out of a CERN vortex. And here's where Max's story sneaks back in. While there's no quantum AI portal opener, CERN really does use artificial intelligence. The data from particle collisions is mind-bogglingly vast, petabytes upon petabytes, more than any human team could comb through. AI helps sift through it, flagging anomalies, spotting patterns, and even predicting where interesting physics might show up. So yes, AI is there. And yes, quantum computing is on the horizon as a possible game-changer for future experiments. Combine that with the raw imagination Max Lohan brought to the table, and you can see how a story about quantum AI at CERN practically writes itself. In reality, CERN is searching not for portals, but for answers. What is dark matter? Why does the universe have more matter than antimatter? Are there undiscovered forces still waiting to be revealed? These questions may not sound as flashy as Dimensional Rift opens in Switzerland, but they're just as thrilling because the answers could redefine our place in the cosmos. And while physicists stick to the math, the rest of us can't help but ask, what if all those conspiracy theories are just misinterpretations of discoveries yet to come? The real deal. Max Loughan's story spins around two magic words: quantum AI. It sounds futuristic, mysterious, almost suspiciously like something Marvel would drop in a trailer. But unlike portals to another dimension, quantum AI is real, or at least, it's becoming real. And if you want a recipe for both breakthroughs and wild speculation, this is it. Traditional computers, like the phone or laptop you're reading this on, speak the language of bits. Every bit is a 0 or a 1. And everything, from cat videos to climate simulations, is built on those binary bricks. Quantum computers, on the other hand, use qubits. Thanks to the quantum principle of superposition, a qubit can be 0, 1, or a blend of both at once. Multiply that across dozens or hundreds of qubits, and suddenly you're exploring a mind-bending number of possibilities in parallel. It's like the difference between flipping one coin at a time versus flipping every possible combination of coins simultaneously. That's why physicists and engineers get goosebumps. Quantum computing isn't just faster, it's different. Now add AI to the mix. Artificial intelligence thrives on data, spotting patterns, making predictions, learning strategies. The more data and computational power it has, the smarter and more capable it becomes. But even today's most powerful supercomputers struggle with certain calculations. That's where the quantum twist comes in. Put them together, and you get a partnership where quantum computing provides vast possibilities and AI decides which ones matter. It's like giving Sherlock Holmes a supercharged magnifying glass that lets him scan every possible crime scene scenario at once, while Watson takes notes and points out the most promising leads. This union, quantum AI, could transform entire industries. Researchers are already exploring how it might accelerate drug discovery by simulating molecules and proteins at scales impossible for normal computers, or how it could revolutionize finance by crunching markets in ways that make today's algorithms look like child's play. In cryptography, it could both break and create codes that are uncrackable by current technology. And in climate science, it could help us model systems so complex that we can barely scratch their surface today. And yes, physics research is on that list. Imagine using quantum AI to model particle collisions, test theories about dark matter, or even explore the mathematical underpinnings of space-time. No, this doesn't mean CERN has secretly used quantum AI to pop open a wormhole in Geneva. But when you're talking about machines that explore countless realities at once and programs that think in ways humans can't, the leap to portals and dimensions feels almost natural. Our imaginations can't resist it. For Max Lohan, tossing quantum AI into his claim wasn't just flashy, it was savvy. He tapped into a buzzword that sits right on the border between cutting-edge science and science fiction. And the truth is, the real applications of quantum AI are so revolutionary that they already feel like magic. So no, we're not opening wormholes just yet. And that brings us to the juiciest part of Max's claim, the stuff that sounds ripped straight out of sci-fi: portals, the multiverse, and physics that bends reality itself. Portals, multiverse, and physics. Now, let's talk about the part that makes everyone's imagination ignite: portals. The very word conjures up images of glowing circles in the air, shimmering gateways to somewhere else, maybe another planet, maybe another timeline, maybe a parallel version of you who actually stuck to their gym membership. When Max Lohan claimed that CERN and quantum AI had opened such a doorway, it wasn't just wild talk. It tapped into some of the strangest and most tantalizing questions physics has ever raised. Take wormholes, for instance. These hypothetical tunnels through space-time, first proposed as Einstein-Rosen bridges, are solutions to Einstein's equations of general relativity. In theory, a wormhole could connect two distant points in space, or even two different universes, through a shortcut outside of normal space-time. In practice, we've never observed one. They might collapse instantly, or require exotic forms of matter with negative energy to stay open. But they sit there in the math like an unanswered dare, reminding us that space-time is far weirder than the everyday world suggests. Then there's the multiverse concept. Physics has multiple versions of it. One is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, where every quantum decision splits reality into countless parallel universes. Another arises from cosmology. If the universe inflated after the Big Bang, maybe other bubble universes formed too, each with its own physical laws. Suddenly, the idea that CERN's experiments might bump into another universe doesn't sound like pure fantasy. It's just not something we've ever seen evidence for. And of course, there's quantum entanglement, famously dubbed spooky action at a distance by Einstein. Two particles can be linked in such a way that when you measure one, the other instantly reflects the change, no matter how far apart they are. It's not a portal in the sci-fi sense, but it is a kind of invisible connection that defies classical understanding. When people hear about entanglement, it's easy to let the imagination slide toward talk of interdimensional gateways. What makes these ideas so sticky is that they blur the line between physics and philosophy. On the one hand, they are rooted in serious science and equations that have stood up to rigorous testing. On the other, they raise questions that sound like they belong in a fantasy novel. Could there be other you living different choices? Could space-time itself be folded to make shortcuts? Could something as small as a proton collision ripple across the boundary of universes? Physicists tend to stay cautious here. They acknowledge that wormholes and multiverses are mathematically possible, but stress that we have zero experimental proof. Still, they don't dismiss them entirely, because history has taught science a humbling lesson. The universe is often stranger than we imagined, and that's the backdrop against which Max's claim resonated. He wasn't just pulling words out of thin air, he was borrowing from theories that already sound half like sci-fi. CERN might not have opened a glowing portal in Geneva, but the idea that such a thing could exist one day is not entirely beyond the realm of physics. And as long as that tiny door of possibility remains cracked open, the human imagination is going to keep peeking through. But why are we so obsessed with the thought of stepping through a portal in the first place? Why we love the portal idea. If there's one thing pop culture loves more than aliens, it's portals. From Doctor Strange swirling open fiery rings to Rick and Morty hopping universes like it's a weekend road trip, the image of stepping through a glowing gateway has become a modern myth. It's not just fun, it's symbolic. A portal represents escape, possibility, the unknown. It's a story device that lets us ask, what's out there? And what could we be on the other side? Movies and shows have hardwired us to crave the fantastical. Think Interstellar, where wormholes are visualized as highways through the cosmos, or Stranger Things, where the upside down is a terrifying shadow of our own world. Even video games like Portal made stepping through impossible doorways a joyful puzzle mechanic. So when someone like Max Loughan claims CERN might have cracked open reality, our brains instantly light up with these cultural references. We don't just hear quantum physics, we see glowing rifts and daring adventures. But there's a deeper reason too. Portals speak to our human itch for discovery. We've mapped continents, sailed oceans, landed on the moon, but the idea that there could be another layer of existence just waiting to be unlocked scratches a primal curiosity that never fades. It's the same drive that fuels exploration, invention, and yes, conspiracy theories. So whether or not CERN is fiddling with doorways to other universes, the notion will always captivate us because we're wired to wonder what's beyond the next threshold. If you loved diving into this cosmic rabbit hole, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because the next story might just open a portal of its own.